Hi guys, and welcome to my attempt to review every single Simpsons episode of all time. Now, I know you're probably questioning my sanity already, but hey, The Simpsons is an iconic series at the end of the day, so I think it deserves a full review like this. Of course, I'm not the first one to do a series like this. People like Pygo Rules have done this for shows like SpongeBob, but of course I'll try to bring my own take to this series. Just to have an idea about what these videos will contain, I will cover each episode in a season, giving both a bit of trivia about each one, as well as my favourite moment. I will also give my brief overall opinion and give it a rating of 1 to 5. At the end of the video, I'll go over my top 5 favourite and least favourite episodes from the season, as well as give an overall average rating for it and my thoughts about it overall. Now, I do want to stress that these opinions are my own, so if you find yourself disagreeing with me, that is no problem at all, just try to be respectful about it. Also, I do have to thank the Simpsons wiki for giving me the information that I needed here to provide trivia for these episodes. Now, enough of my rambling, let's get on to Season 1 of The Simpsons. Season 1, Episode 1, The Simpsons roasting on an open fire. Bart's tattoo cost the family their Christmas fun, so Homer must find a way to pay for the holiday. Some trivia about this episode is that Marge is the first to speak, making her the first voice that is heard in the main series. The best moment for me were the interactions between Homer and Bart at the racecourse. They are well done and make you really care about their plight. My overall score for this one is a 4 out of 5. This is a pretty solid first episode that has some touching moments. They managed to get Bart's character down pretty well straight away, as he is shown as a prankster but also someone who is a good kid deep down. Of course, as is the case with all Season 1 episodes, the animation is a bit unpolished at times, and some of the characters' appearances, like Moe and Barney, will change to a more familiar look down the line. I can't say that the humour is anything special here, but there are a few funny moments, mostly with Homer's antics trying to find new jobs. Overall, I would not call it a classic, however, it is the pilot of a very successful series, so obviously it did a lot right. Season 1, Episode 2, Bart the Genius. Bart cheats on his test, which leads to him being mistaken for a genius and sent to a special school. Some trivia is that while complaining about Scrabble, the letters that Homer actually had spelled oxidize, which is the highest word score that can be achieved with only 7 letters. The best moment was the genius kids tricking Bart into giving them his lunch. That was a great moment for me because it really showed just how out of place Bart was at that school. So 3 out of 5 is what I give this one. It is very slow paced and was lacking in good jokes overall. It also had some fantasy sequences like Bart visualizing a train mass equation, which doesn't really feel like The Simpsons at all, to be honest. I can't think of any bits like that post season 1 at all. That being said, I did find the concept of the plot to be quite interesting. Having Bart cheat on a test is very like him, and the way that it plays out leads to some fun situations in a genius school. But for me, the episode is just not funny enough to get a higher rating, because after all, The Simpsons is a comedy show, so that is at the forefront of my mind when ranking these episodes. Season 1, Episode 3, Homer's Odyssey. Homer gets fired from his job, which makes him fall into a deep depression. This is the first appearance of Blinky, the three-eyed fish. The best moment was finding out how Homer got his job as a safety technician at the nuclear power plant. So this one gets a 2 out of 5 from me. Looking back at it now, there are a few jarring things about this episode. Firstly, Smithers is black, which, by all accounts, was an animation mistake. And secondly, Homer trying to commit suicide was very out of character for him, even for the 3rd episode of the show. Some of the animation for the background crowds is also very off, and lead to some, frankly silly visuals. Like most of the season, the jokes told are very grounded and not really to my personal tastes, although I did find a few of Mr. Burns' lines funny. I must say that I did dislike this episode overall. It is just very dull and has some odd character moments to boot. Season 1, Episode 4, There's No Disgrace, Like Home. After his family embarrasses him at a company picnic, Homer decides it is time for them to seek help. This is the first time in the main series that Bart says his now famous catchphrase, "Don't have a cow, man." The best moment is the shock therapy scene. So the rating here is a 4 out of 5. This is another episode where you can tell that the writers were still trying to get the characters down. Homer seems like the most mature member of the family here, pawning a TV set to get them counselling, while Marge gets drunk at a picnic and Lisa and Bart act like bratty kids. Speaking again on the therapy, Dr. Marvin Monroe's shock treatment is a very iconic moment for the series, and I did find it very amusing. The fact that the Angel family from earlier in the episode were there as well is a great touch that I found really funny. There are a few decent jokes sprinkled in throughout to keep me entertained through the majority of the episode, even though it was uneven at times. There were enough memorable moments here for me to like this one. Season 1, Episode 5, Bart the General. Bart runs into a bully problem, so he seeks out Grandpa and Herman for help. This is the first appearance of Nelson Muntz, and the only appearance that he makes in Season 1. The best moment was the water balloon attack on Nelson, which Grandpa and Herman get in on hilariously. This was another 4 out of 5. This was a fun episode that deals with a common problem that a lot of kids have to deal with at some point, which is bullying. Using Nelson in this role is perfect, as he comes across as quite intimidating, like a lot of bullies are perceived. Having Homer's bad advice fail, which leads Bart to seek out Grandpa, is a good turn of events. Also, this episode introduces Herman, and what more can I say about that guy? He is a crazy character, and it is good watching him organise a kid army to take down Nelson. It's kind of a shame that Herman didn't get more roles as the series progressed, really. I always did find him a very interesting one. The humour overall was okay, but I did find more enjoyment from the action than any joke in particular. So yeah, this is a comfortable 4 out of 5 for me. It could have maybe been a 5, but I feel it is not quite funny enough to get it to that next level. Season 1, Episode 6, Moaning Lisa. Lisa is unhappy with her life, and no one seems to understand. So some trivia is the background noise heard in the arcade is the music from the real-life Tetris arcade machine. My favourite moment was the change of heart that Marge has, and the message that she gives to Lisa. This is a 5 out of 5. So, I never used to like this episode. I used to think it was overdramatic and simply not funny enough. Even though a lot of people regard this as a classic, I never used to get what the fuss was all about. So, I said all that to say this. I now absolutely love this episode. I think the message is spot on. Teaching kids to be themselves, and not to fake smiles to please other people, is exactly what should be heard. Even the point made about how creativity is often discouraged in schools is something that this episode absolutely nails. I used to think Lisa's sadness was overblown, as the episode did nothing to set it up, but now I realise that was kind of the point all along. Anyone can feel sad at any time, and the reason why is irrelevant. What is relevant is to feel that emotion and to deal with it in the best way that you can personally. On top of that great main plot is a fun side one, featuring Homer and Bart's video boxing match that threw up a few moments that I did laugh at. I really did laugh Homer's "Oh no!" yell as Marge turns off the TV. So yeah, let's just say that as I have got older, and hopefully matured a bit, I relate to this one a whole lot more. Season 1, Episode 7, The Call of the Simpsons. The Simpsons family decide to go camping after buying a new van, however, they soon end up getting lost. We find out that Flanders makes $27 more a week than Homer does. This would mean that Ned's yearly salary is $1,404 more than Homer's. The best moment, or moments, for me, were every single scene with Bob, the RV salesman, in. This one gets a 3 out of 5. Homer's personality is what really drives the story, as he is at the forefront of the whole plot. It starts by him being jealous of Flanders, which escalates when his incompetence as a woodsman gets him and Bart lost. The whole idea of him being mistaken for Bigfoot towards the end is a bit silly, but at least it produces a good few lines from the TV crew. To touch again on my favourite part of the episode, the line delivery from Albert Brooks, who was brought in as guest star for this one, playing Cowboy Bob, is just perfect. He captures the whole vibe of a sleazy salesman just so well. I don't have much else to say about this one really, other than it is an average episode, and as such, gets the average rating. Season 1, Episode 8, The Telltale Head. Bart cuts off the head of the statue of Jebediah Springfield to impress some bullies. However, everyone is outraged and starts looking for the vandal. The trivia here is that the episode's title is a reference to The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. The best moment was the start of the day with Homer and the kids in church. It threw up a lot of great moments. So another pretty good episode here. This one is a 4 out of 5. The story is told via a flashback, which is quite unique for The Simpsons, and I think it works well in giving the scenes a nice flow. The way in which Bart's day plays out is very believable, feeling both the peer pressure from Jimbo's group, as well as the bad advice from his dad. The message of the episode is simple but true. Don't compromise your beliefs for the sake of trying to get other people to like you. If they're going to like you, then they should be able to do it for the right reasons. I did not find the episode that funny overall again, which is typical of this season, but I did like Smithers' line to Burns. The feeling is more than mutual, sir, which is definitely a hint of things to come for his character. Season 1, Episode 9, Life on the Fast Lane. Despite Homer, after receiving a bowling ball made for him for her birthday, Marge begins to learn how to bowl. Soon, she meets a man named Jacques, who threatens her whole marriage. So we find out that Marge turns 34 years old in this episode, an age which she has remained at ever since. My best moment was Jacques yelling, 4 onion rings! 5 out of 5 is a rating that I give this one. It is a cult classic for a reason after all, but I must admit that I was close to giving it a 4 because I don't think it is the most entertaining episode in the world. However, the Homer and Marge relationship angle that we do get works really well. It's taken very seriously and it even shows a bit of the impact that it has on Bart and Lisa. Also, Shaq has a certain amount of charisma to him, which makes Marge falling for him seem quite natural and even understandable in a way. Also, it is worth mentioning that this is the first Homer and Marge marriage crisis episode type of thing that we have in this series, and the fact that they handled it this well, I think does deserve to be acknowledged and appreciated. Season 1, Episode 10, Homer's Night Out. After Bart takes a picture of Homer dancing next to Princess Kashmir, Marge gets upset and kicks him out of the house. This is the first time that Homer's weight of 239 pounds is revealed in the series. The best moment for me was the Fred Flintstone reference, and the fact that that is the best moment here probably says all you need to know about what I think of this episode. Indeed, this is a 1 out of 5. Man, I hate this episode. The whole conflict in this one comes down to Homer dancing, yes, dancing, next to a woman. Now, feel free to disagree, but I simply don't think that that is a big deal. To say that Marge and the town overreacted to that would be putting it mildly. I mean, as if the entire town would be obsessed of this one photograph of a random man dancing at a party. And Marge kicking Homer out based on that just has never sat right with me. Also, I just don't buy the idea that dancing next to a professional dancer, after all, makes you some kind of womanizer, which is what the episode seems to suggest. And because I think that, Homer's whole speech at the end just comes across as preachy more than anything else, which is a shame. Now, you may say that times have changed since this episode came out, which in a way is understandable, but still, even for 1990, this is ridiculous. Add on to all that a lack of any funny jokes, and it is easy to see why I think this is by far the worst episode of the season. Season 1, Episode 11, The Crepes of Wrath. Bart travels to France as a foreign exchange student, where he is forced into doing grueling manual labour for 2 criminals. Some trivia here is that while Bart is in France, he stays at the Chateau Mauchon, which means castle house in English, and do forgive me if my French pronunciation is terrible. So the best moment was Bart's whole exchange with the French policeman at the end. This one gets a 3 out of 5. It can be easy to write this one off as just a simple sympathy exercise for Bart, but there is a bit more to it than that, I find. If you think about it, the premise of the plot is actually quite dark. Bart is subjected to some pretty bad child abuse by 2 creepy Frenchmen in a strange land for him. At least it allows us to see him in a position that we have not seen before, and watching him get himself out of it is very satisfying, even if him suddenly learning French may be a bit far-fetched. As far as the whole Albanian subplot, it was okay, but it just ended too abruptly for me to take it too seriously in the end. So yeah, this was a solid episode overall, but once again, it was not quite funny enough for me to call it great or anything. Season 1, Episode 12, Krusty Gets Busted. After Homer witnesses a robbery at a Quickie Mart, he identifies Krusty the Clown as the culprit. Krusty is sent to jail, but Bart still believes in him and sets out to prove his innocence. This is the first episode of the series to have a main focus on a supporting character, in Krusty. The best moment was Homer's cowardly reaction to the robbery, and the subsequent footage of it on the news. It might not come as a surprise, but this one is a 5 out of 5. This is the episode which both introduced Kelsey Grammer as Sideshow Bob and set up the long-running feud between him and Bart. One thing I do like about how the story was structured is that we get clues and foreshadowing pretty much up front. It is up to the audience to put them together and to try to figure out the whole mystery. I also like that we got the Bob reveal before the whole climax. Once we know that Krusty got framed, there is no need to drag it out for some kind of fake drama. The jokes here are pretty good across the board, as is the animation, which gives us plenty of fun visuals, especially with the characters' facial expressions. In fact, this episode seems like a change of pace for the whole series, a changing of the guard, if you will, and in fact, future seasons will end up going more in this same direction. Based on that alone, I have to say this is a true classic. Season 1, Episode 13, Some Enchanted Evening. Homer and Marge go on a night out, leaving the 3 kids in the hands of a babysitter, who turns out to be the notorious babysitter bandit, Miss Spots. Some quite well-known trivia about this one is that it was the first episode of the show to be produced, yet the last to air in the first season. This was mainly due to many animation mistakes. The best moment came towards the end of the episode where Homer unwittingly helped Miss Spots to escape. So this was a 3 out of 5 all day long and twice on Sundays. Average would be the word that sums up this episode in both the plot and the jokes department. Homer's antics at the end, along with the kids tying up Miss Spots, were probably the most enjoyable parts of it for me. I honestly don't have anything else to say about this one. The most memorable thing about this episode is that it was the first one produced. There really is not a lot else to say. So the overall score for this season, once I average out the episode's ratings over the 13 episodes, is 3.5, and honestly that does sound about right. My top 5 episodes of the season were Krusty Gets Busted at number 1, my second favourite was Moaning Lisa, my third was Life on a Fast Lane, my fourth was Bart the General, and the fifth was The Telltale Head. The bottom 5 for me was, surprise surprise, Homer's Night Out was the worst, Homer's Odyssey was second, Some Enchanted Evening was third, Bart the Genius was fourth, and fifth was The Crepes of Wrath. Although that could have easily been the call of The Simpsons. I had a really hard time separating those two. So, with that, we've come to the end of the season. It is of course a short season by The Simpsons standards, but there's still plenty to talk about nonetheless. My overall impression is that it was a good season. It did have a few rough episodes animation wise, and overall it was not quite as funny as I would have liked, but in a way I like the sheer simplicity of it. I think that the fact that the show took its characters so seriously built the foundations for what it went on to become. In the end, despite its flaws, there were plenty of good episodes and memorable moments here. So, if you've not yet seen this season and are a Simpsons fan, I would definitely recommend that you do so. Thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you next time for season 2, which I'm really looking forward to watching. Goodbye guys.